The grand hall of the Galactic Concord shimmered with a light that no single star could produce. The chamber was suspended within the nebular cradle of Epsilon Theta, its walls alive with flowing energy and ancient patterns that had witnessed 1,000 negotiations. Delegates from across the known spiral arm gathered there, their forms, scaled, furred, crystalline, and ethereal, occupying their respective alcoves arranged in a perfect circle. At the center, the neutral platform waited for the representatives of a young species whose rise had startled the oldest empires of the galaxy. The humans, when they first arrived a mere century ago, they were considered promising but naive. In the eyes of the galactic powers, Earth was a planet of curiosity, its people emotional, ambitious, reckless. Yet, in the span of just a few generations, the Terran Federation had accomplished what most civilizations achieved only after millennia. They had colonized distant worlds, built fleets that could traverse black hole edges and, most unsettling to others, remained utterly unpredictable. The session that day had been called to discuss the Terran expansion protocol. Many older empires had grown wary of humanity's rapid reach. The Conquered sought assurance that humans would not destabilize the delicate balance of galactic politics. The Earth Envoy arrived without ceremony. A single vessel, smaller than the ornate cruisers of the elder races, decloaked silently and docked at the Concord's port. The Envoy, a human of calm composure and deliberate gait, stepped into the hall. No entourage followed. No visible guards accompanied. Only a faint badge gleamed on the envoy's chest, the insignia of the Terran Federation. Every gaze followed as the envoy approached the speaking circle. The delegate of the Rinthak Dominion leaned forward, mandibles clicking impatiently. "Human envoy," it began, its voice a grinding echo. "You stand before the Conquered to answer for your people's actions. Your colonies expand without authorization into contested systems. Your fleets maneuver dangerously close to our borders. You must clarify Earth's intentions." The envoy smiled politely. "Earth's intentions," they said, "are peace and preparedness." The hall stirred. The word preparedness had an undertone that rippled through the assembly. The representative of the Velari collective, whose translucent form pulsed with light, tilted forward. "Preparedness," it repeated, "is a convenient veil for military posturing. Are you suggesting you prepare for war against every species represented here?" The envoy met the glowing gaze without flinching. "Not war," they said. "Contingency." Confusion flickered across the chamber. The term did not translate cleanly into some languages, so the Concord's translator nodes adjusted, cycling through possible meanings: backup plan, safeguard, countermeasure. The murmurs grew into uneasy silence. The envoy continued. "Every civilization develops strategies for survival. Humanity is no different. We study possibilities, outcomes, and risks. We prepare for the best and the worst." The Rinthak slammed a clawed hand on the console. "You mean you have strategies to fight us?" "I mean," the envoy replied evenly, "we have strategies for everyone in this room." The hall froze. Even the ambient hum of the translator nodes seemed to falter. The chair being of the Concord, a creature of living crystal whose facets shimmered in anxiety, spoke with measured tone. "You claim," it said slowly, "that your species has made contingency plans for all members of the Concord?"
"Yes," the envoy said simply.
The words carried no arrogance, no aggression, just quiet certainty. The silence that followed stretched long enough to make the air itself seem heavy. The galactic powers were ancient, accustomed to dominance. The thought that this young species had studied, analyzed, and prepared countermeasures for every one of them was unthinkable. The envoy's console activated, projecting a holographic image into the center of the hall. It was a star map, one showing trade routes, resource caches, and defensive networks. Not of Earth, but of the entire Conquered. "This," said the envoy, "is the network of interdependence that sustains galactic peace. Trade routes, energy flows, communication relays. Humanity has studied it not to exploit it, but to understand it, because peace without understanding is temporary." A low hum resonated through the chamber as the delegates studied the projection. They saw their own secrets reflected: vulnerabilities, choke points, alliances built on fragile trust. The envoy touched another control and the projection shifted to a new map. This one depicted emergency logistics: human supply lines, colonies, and deep space outposts arranged like a lattice around the spiral arm. "We learned," the envoy said softly, "from our own history. Every alliance fails if it depends on goodwill alone. So we built contingencies, not to threaten, but to ensure that no crisis could ever destroy us unprepared. The representative of the Fall Dominion's voice hissed like static. You mean to say, it accused, that you humans have a plan in place to defeat us all if it came to that? The Envoy's gaze swept slowly across the room. Defeat is not our goal. Survival is. There was something unnerving about the tone. It wasn't bluster. It was fact. The chair being's light dimmed slightly. Explain, human. If peace is your goal, why craft such plans? The Envoy clasped their hands behind their back. Because peace, they said, requires leverage. It requires the understanding that we all stand at the edge of destruction if we choose conflict. Humanity does not wish for war, but we refuse to be vulnerable to it. An elderly delegate of the Korathun Alliance leaned forward, voice trembling. Do you truly have plans for all of us? Yes, the Envoy replied. For your kind, we analyzed your dependence on the quantum slipstream nodes. For the Rinthak, your reliance on centralized command. For the Velari, your distributed consciousness and its signal frequency. Each species has strengths, and each strength, if compromised, becomes a weakness. We study both. We prepare for both. A cold unease swept through the delegates. No one doubted the human's sincerity. For centuries, the galactic powers had underestimated Earth. They had watched humans endure their internal conflicts, their environmental collapses, their near-extinction events, and somehow recover stronger every time. They had seen them adapt to hostile worlds and survive radiation storms, biological plagues, and wars of unimaginable scale. Humanity's defining trait was not aggression, but persistence. And persistence was terrifying in a galaxy that prized complacency. The Envoy paused, letting the tension settle. Do not mistake preparation for hostility, they continued. We have contingency plans for humanity as well. If our systems fall, if our colonies fail, we have measures to preserve knowledge, culture, and continuity. It is not about control. It is about ensuring that no single disaster, no single mistake ends what we've built. The Velari delegate pulsed with bright yellow light, the equivalent of shock. You speak as if expecting the end. History has taught us to expect everything, the Envoy said. That is why Earth survives. A murmur of reluctant admiration rippled through the hall. The older races, who once dismissed humans as impulsive, began to see them differently. The Envoy's words were not boasts. They were the reflection of a philosophy, the belief that security comes from understanding every possible outcome. The chair being leaned closer, its crystalline voice soft. Tell us, human envoy, it asked. Do these contingency plans of yours include this very meeting? The Envoy smiled faintly. Yes. That single word was enough to silence the chamber once more. The Envoy continued. This meeting was predictable. The questions, the fears, the demands. We ran simulations on possible responses from every delegation represented here. We have prepared responses for all of them. This conversation has already been modeled. If hostilities were to arise today, we know the outcome within a margin of 7% uncertainty. A shiver passed through the hall, not from fear of weapons, but from the realization that humans had turned foresight into a weapon of its own. The Rinthak delegate hissed in agitation. You play dangerous games, human. This kind of planning could destabilize the conquered. The Envoy shook their head. Or stabilize it. You see, by acknowledging our preparedness, we make war unnecessary. You cannot threaten those who are already prepared for your worst move. For a long moment, the chamber was filled with nothing but the faint pulse of the nebula beyond the walls. The delegates exchanged uncertain glances. The human had changed the tone of the entire gathering, not by threat, but by calm inevitability. Finally, the chair being spoke again. And what does Earth ask in return for this? Declaration? Nothing, the Envoy said. Only understanding. We will cooperate. We will trade. We will share knowledge. But we will not be unready again. Not after our history. Not after what we have seen. The Envoy's voice grew quieter, almost reflective. We remember what it was to be powerless. To stand under skies filled with weapons and hope that peace would hold. We remember trusting others to protect us. And we remember being betrayed by our own nature. We swore never again. There was no sound after that, only the slow, rhythmic pulse of the nebular light. Then, without further word, the Envoy deactivated the projection, gave a small nod to the chair being, and walked out of the hall. No guards followed. No escort waited. The delegates sat in uneasy silence long after the human ship had vanished into the void. In the minutes that followed, encrypted messages raced across the galaxy. Some